It is a pleasure to talk to you. It's always great to connect with a fellow Canadian, even though we're living here in the States. You can never take the Canada out of the guy, man. So it's always nice to talk to
Oh,
a
you really
fellow
can't take the
Canadian.
Canada out of the guy. There's no way.
No
Especially,
way, man.
we really don't want to take the Canada out of the guy now. Let me tell
No,
you.
definitely. Listen, man, I've been a big admirer of your work for a long time. I want to, before we get into the current stuff like American Primeval, I
Take your
want to,
time. I'm really good. Yep.
listen, man, I want to go back to where I first saw you. Growing up as a kid, I was a big fan of horror movies. Um, I first saw you in 1990 in the Amityville Curse, where your character Frank, he had a pretty gruesome death.
James,
What can you
are
tell
you
me about
kidding?
some of
Are
those
you,
early roles,
are you
man?
kidding me? I mean, that was directed by Tom Barry from Montreal. And I remember my early part of my career, James. I mean, I was a stage guy. I'm still a stage guy. Stratford, Broadway, Jerusalem. We won all the Canadian Tonys. I played Rooster Byron a few years ago in Toronto and won everything. Not that it's about winning, but why not win them all if you're going to do, Rooster Byron and a Jez Butterworth play. So for me, when I stepped out into movies in those early 90s, I was just so lucky to be Canadian, James, because people wanted me to already get into movies at a very, when I first got to Toronto, when I graduated university, became a joint equity right away. And my agent, Gary Goddard, who's gone now, he said, "We're going to get you into movies right now." And I said, "No, no, not yet. We're still more stage. I want more stage, mid, late 80s." But then Tom Barry came along and I did two or three movies in a row for him. And the Amityville Curse, oh my goodness. That's so long ago. We filmed that in Montreal with some gal who was on that big Hawaiian, I don't know what kind of show that was, but she was kind of like the movie star. I was,
Right.
stage star. And the guy who did my head cast, he had a massive panic attack halfway through putting the cast on my head. So I had, straws stuck up my nose going, do I just keep going here or are you going to bring someone else in or are we calling Toronto right now? Like, what are we doing? But in the end, it all worked out. No one got hurt and I was glad I did it.
Yeah, man. And listen, what a career you've had since then, man. You're a tremendous character actor. Let's get into American Primeval here. Um, Brigham Young, he isn't really somebody that's talked about or explored a lot in westerns, which is kind of a shame because yeah, he was a complicated guy, but he was such a fascinating individual in the sense that, he did so much for the LDS and the Mormons and that whole Utah territory. Um, how great was it for you to get to explore a historical figure like this? And how much research did you do? You strike me as a big book reader. Did you get into a lot of books about him?
Had to. I mean, I had to. When the call came in from Peter Berg and went through my agents, my managers saying he wanted me to play Brigham Young, I kind of did a half step backwards. I went, holy crap, Brigham Young. Now, I don't know much about the Mormon religion at that time. I certainly knew about the university. I heard about Joseph Smith, who started the entire thing by the gold plates in the Pennsylvania hills when he was 24 years old. And then when he died, Brigham Young took over. All right, so yeah, I read three massive books, two biographies, and then a novel. One was called The Pioneer Prophet, one was The Prophet and the Reformer, and the third book was The 27th Wife, written by his 27th wife who divorced him, the only woman to divorce Brigham Young of well, he had 23 wives at the time of American Primeval Evil, but when he died in 19 or 1877, he had 56 wives. So look, there was a lot to get into. And those books and other books that I read, I visited a Mormon family. I spent 2 hours with them, and I said, before I ask any questions, if you don't want to answer any of them, you don't have to. Or there's only one they didn't answer, and I can't tell you what it was.
That's
But,
all good.
but James, um, you don't get offered Brigham Young every day, do you? I mean, you don't get offered a part like that, and I think the trust that Peter put in me to try and find out who this guy was, the first thing I did was I started from the outside in. Usually I'm an inside out actor. I'm a very internal actor. James, you've seen my work.
Mhm.
I get into everything I do happily, and I'm not afraid to fail ever. Maybe that's why I haven't in a way. I'm not afraid. So I needed to have his look. And I was very lucky, James. I had long hair at the time, Brigham Young had very long hair. He couldn't grow any facial hair in his 40s, 50s. Not until his later life did he have a bit of a facial hair thing. So we had mutton chops.
Yeah, mutton chops. Yeah.
What did he wear? How did he wear it? How tall was he? How much did he weigh? It was all in the journals. So for me to dye these locks a blonde crimson, horrifying, James, horrifying. You've seen it. I
Yeah.
mean, my wife couldn't look at me for half a year. It was pretty freaky, but that's the way he looked. And I walked like him. There was no voice recordings of Brigham Young, but there certainly was a voice recording of I believe, the sixth prophet, since Brigham Young died in the early, like 1890s, 1893, or the fourth prophet. I can't really remember, but there's a vocal recording of him. And
Mhm.
that mid-Atlantic accent, Judy,
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say that yeah,
right?
you captured that.
Right,
Yeah.
you heard it, and I mean, it's not a Western thing at all. I mean, it's
Mhm.
no West. They were from New York. They were from Pennsylvania. These early Mormons who basically saved that religion.
Mhm.
And Brigham Young, he's the original gangster. I mean, he's
Yeah.
the one who brought them all to Utah. They discovered the Utah Territory, as you know, and the Salt
Yeah.
Flats. Nothing was growing, James. It was no grass, just those beautiful mountains, and there was nothing there. And
Mhm.
when Brigham Young got to that place, James, and I think it's in the movie, Brigham Young says, "This is the place. Like, this is the place." Obviously, he was a very religious man. God was everything to him. He called his people the flock.
Yep.
You know, they were his flock, and he needed to take care of them, and he did that in spades.
Yeah. Um, you've been in a few westerns in your career. Did this one, aside from the character, did this one feel any different than the rest, or maybe in the makeup or the direction, or was there
Yeah.
anything about it that made it feel different?
Do you know, James, I got to tell you, we had a big discussion, Peter and all the leads, about all this incredible press that we're getting. And thanks again, James, for seeing me today. But
Yeah,
I did
absolutely.
5 hours of press about a month ago. And the word Western, we know
Hmm.
why people say it, but
Right.
but
Yeah,
but
because
to me,
it's
James, this isn't really a Western.
right.
This is a history lesson, right? I mean,
Yep.
this is just before the Civil War. I don't know how anyone survived in 1857. I don't know how anyone was surviving,
Yep.
from the indigenous Americans, the Native Americans, to the white man, to the Mormons, to everybody. They all wanted a chunk of property. They wanted to call it theirs. They wanted to survive. And I think Taylor Kitsch, who's absolutely brilliant in this thing, and Betty Gilpin and their son, are they our heroes? Sure.
Right.
But I'm not sure anyone really is escaping a bit of me or us and the world against everybody else. I mean, there was a fear factor in 1857 that was like no other. Everybody was fighting for survival. That's what this six-part limited series is about. And yes, it is in the West, and it's
Right.
in Utah State at that time, Utah Territory. It wasn't even a state yet. Brigham Young was the governor of the Utah Territory.
Hmm.
And it's a true life happening, this Mountain Meadows massacre. So what you saw, to me, yes, it's a form of a Western, but no, I've never been in anything like this before.
Right. Yeah, I know that TVs and movies they have to have their heroes and their villains for, people to follow the story. But it's like you said, I mean, back then in the 1800s, people were just trying to survive and, villain is it's such a harsh word when people are just, trying to do what they can, especially Brigham for all his people that he had behind him.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly didn't look at Brigham Young as a villain at all. He had his faults for sure. Was he responsible for the Mountain Meadows massacre? It's still to be decided. We'll let the audience decide for what they see, which turned out very bad for him, for his religion, for a lot of things. A lot of people died on that day, like 178 or something over those 2 days, and including children. So what I'm most proud of is history.
Mhm.
You can't, we repeat it all the time. The bad shit that we do to each other, we continue to repeat all over the world at all times. We could talk politically right now for 2 days, you
Oh,
and
yeah,
I.
we could go on for hours
We,
about
we could go on
that.
for hours,
Yeah.
right? But this, I'm so proud of Peter Berg, because what he brought in his cast, in his crew, Jacques, the DP from France, there's no CGI, James.
Hmm.
There's no green screen. Those are real wolves, real snow. real horses. The Wranglers from California were unbelievable with like my horse was 17 hands high. I could barely get on the goddamn thing. I loved Phoenix so much, my horse. 17 hands high. Come on, James. Have you done that for 4 months in a row? My
I
left
have not.
feels
What about Shay? Talk to me about working with Shay because he's a fantastic actor, and you chewed much of your scenes with him. How was he, man, on set?
the best.
Yeah.
I I I can only say the best. I mean, I remember meeting Shay. Obviously, I knew who he was. He knew who I was. We're fans of each other. But you never know when you're going to do a chunk of your work with one particular actor, male or female. You never know. I'd heard
Right.
great things about him, but I do, and I'll never forget the day we met on set in Fort Bridger. He walked up to me, I walked up to him, and we hugged each other right off the bat. And he goes, Coatsy, what a pleasure. I said, Shay, I'm such a fan. And we spent the next, I don't know, we have 5 or 6 really juicy scenes in this thing, and we spread out over 2 or 3 months, and we hung out, and we didn't fart around. There was no. I was Brigham Young from the time I got on that set till the time I went home, and he was Bridger, and we got it on, and we made that script even better. I mean, Mark L. Smith. I mean, how brilliant is he as a
Yeah.
writer? So happy to have said his words, but we had some ad libs in there that were just from him and me really jiving together because we both wanted a very different thing, right? You've
Right.
seen it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's stuff that I wanted that he wasn't willing to give, and the stuff he wanted that I said absolutely not. But we're conniving, we're smart uh, as characters, and they really happened. This really happened back in the day. So to play true characters like that was a great thing for both of us.
That's awesome, man. Listen, I want to. We'll circle back to American Primeval here. I want to. I want to. Obviously, I got to touch on Sons of Anarchy for a little bit because that was obviously that was the role where you became Kim Coates to everyone else. You know, you weren't. You
Boy,
didn't
you're
just become.
right.
You didn't just become the guy from the Amityville Curse or the guy from Dead Silence, the guy from Last Boys. This is you're Kim Coates here, man. Um,
You're right.
when you think back to your time on the set with that whole crew, what would you say is the biggest thing you learned as an actor working on Sons of Anarchy?
What a great question, James. I had never really searched out a lead on a television series. I loved arcs.
Mhm.
I love my arcs in, out, keep doing my movies. That's really what I was looking for. So I wasn't really looking for a regular on a television show. I had no idea, James, of the power of TV. Certainly in that 2007, 8, 9, 10, there was
Yeah.
5 hit cable shows. Hit Sons of Anarchy, Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, and Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
Those 5 shows, if you go
They
back,
changed the landscape, man.
they
They changed
changed the
everything.
landscape for actors because
Mhm.
The Sopranos really, with Gail Defini, the late James, I mean, what a wonderful human being. So sorry he's gone. I mean, I've lost Ray Liotta. I mean, Tommy Sizemore. I mean, we could go on. But when The Sopranos opened in that late 1990s,
Mhm.
me as an actor went, look at this TV. This is like a movie every
Yeah.
week. And so when Kurt Sutter offered me Tig, I said no at first because I really wanted to see what Tig was going to be like or this, that, and the other. And he said, I can show you one scene he did. I went, nah, he's too crazy, too psychotic. And I'm very careful with my bad boys. James, you know my work. And he
Yes.
said, look at me. Tig is going to be psychotic. He's going to shoot before he talks, but he's going to become the moral compass of the club. He's going to laugh. He's going to cry. He's going to do some crazy stuff. But trust me, the whole circumference of an actor will be in Tig Traeger. Please come along for this ride with me. And I've been riding motorcycles my whole life, so that was easy.
Mhm.
So I'm so glad I said yes because yeah, I became Kim Coates in a way. I mean, oh, you're the guy from Last Boys. Oh, you're the guy from Waterworld. Oh, you're the guy. You're Kim Coates, and that's the power of TV, James. And I'm so grateful that I was somewhat lucky and stupid enough and smart enough to say yes to Kurt because those 7 years of stuff I'll never forget.
Do you still take lessons you've learned from that for like on your time on set? Do you still use the lessons you learned there in your career today?
I don't know about lessons. I mean, I'm always learning, James. I
Yeah, that's
mean,
true. Yeah.
that's right. I mean, great actors, they learn all the time. If you stop learning, then you're no longer going to be thought of as one of those gals or guys that are character actors or leading men, women, whatever it is. So I learned how to get along with a family for a long time. That's what I learned. And you've heard stories, James. I mean, there was no fights.
Right.
We from Charlie Hunnam all the way down to Theo to Unser to me to Opie to Booney, Tommy. I mean, Maggie Siff. I mean, Katie and Ronnie Perlman, one of my best friends in the world. We got along for 7 years. Think about that. Now, I
It's
will
amazing.
say, like any family, when we stopped filming in November every year, we were going, fuck, can't wait to get out of
I
here.
don't
What a
want to see your face for another six
right,
months. Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
then 3 weeks would go by, and Charlie would call me and go, dinner? Want to get the boys? I went, yeah. So we hung out on the off season too. So we're pretty lucky to be part of, I think, and you know how tough it is to be a hit television show. I'm talking
Right.
about a hit. Sons of Anarchy was a hit, and
It was
I'm
yeah,
grateful to be on that
bona
show.
fide hit. I still watch it every couple of years. It's one of my favorites.
Crazy man, you
Listen,
crazy.
man, you mentioned The Walking Dead too. You're in The Walking Dead, Dead City, season two coming up. We'll probably meet again for that
Oh
there.
no,
But
we're
in the
we're
mean,
definitely going to talk about that
oh
when that
yeah,
comes
definitely.
around.
We'll get it. We'll get you and me will sit down again when that happens.
No
But
doubt.
give us a preview, man. What can you say about your character a
Sure,
little bit? What can
sure.
people
I
expect?
can tell you some stuff.
Okay.
Eli Jornet, the showrunner, picked me and said you have to play this guy, and I said send me some of the scripts, and they did. And I got to tell you, this guy was written for me.
Was
I
he?
mean,
Yeah.
he's a dink. He's just a bad person. He's super smart. He's a billionaire. That part's not like me. But he lived in this incredible enclave during the apocalyptic, the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
He lived in Manhattan, and when he came out, zombies were running Manhattan. He got his own little gang together. There's 3 or 4 gangs in this season two, and Bruegel is my name, and I'm certainly the biggest gang member of my
Okay.
squad. I kill a lot of zombies. Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Lauren Cohen.
Oh, fantastic.
I don't know how to do that enough. Like,
Yeah, yeah, the little heart thing.
massive love for those two and the entire cast and the crew and the DPs and the directors. I mean, honestly, we shot it in Boston. It's 8 episodes this season. It was only 6 the first season. So it's on. I mean, it's
Awesome.
on. It is so funny and violent and crazy and zombied out. I think Dead City, there's two spinoffs, right?
Hmm.
Norman Reedus, my other brother, he's got his own thing
Yeah, yeah,
going on.
yeah. Okay, yeah.
And Jeffrey and Lauren have theirs going on called Dead City, and I was invited to the party. And so yeah, I star in this thing and second season with everybody else. And it's a character I've never played before. He's funny and vicious, and he's a baby. And oh, it's I can't wait
Awesome.
for people
I
to
can't
see
wait
it.
for that later, man. I can't wait to talk to you again about that more in depth later on. But let's circle back to American Primeval here before we close out. I gotta know. I mean, it's a 6 episode limited series. Has there been any talk between Peter Berg or Netflix or you or anybody? Have you heard whispers about that they might do more? Not necessarily with that, in that same story, but do you think Brigham Young might return in another form at some point?
I don't
Or
know.
is it one and done for now, do you think?
I don't know, James. I mean, your query is just like mine.
Yeah.
I will say this: when I did Godless with James Frank, am I, yeah, right? Am I who directed it and
Mhm.
wrote it? Jesus, my head. Anyway, when I did Godless, people thought that Scott Frank, people thought that there'll be a second parter, or it was so successful they'll do more. What happened to Jack? Where is he coming back? What's the town? I didn't really die. I mean, what's? But it never did because it was such a massive hit. 12 Emmy nominations. We won 4. Very lucky that people dug it so much. The reviews are incredible. I'm I'm not looking to do a second parter on this. I just want
Okay.
this to be as good as I know it is, and people to see this history lesson and take something from it.
Right.
And I just can't wait for the reaction of the world to see this on January the 9th, really.
I can't wait either, man. I binged it all last week. It's a fantastic series. Kim Coates It's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to talk to you today, man. I wish you all the best for the new year, my friend, and we'll talk to you again when Dead City rolls around.
James, love you much. You fellow Canadian. We
Yep.
stick together. Um, always. And it's a privilege that we both get to. I mean, I'm an American as well. I have both passports. I'm very lucky that way. But I'm a Canadian boy through and through. Always will
We got someplace to retreat to if it comes right down to
be.
it.
Oh my God. We'll talk more on that later. James, Happy New Year to you. Thanks for talking to me, buddy.
All right, man. You too. Thank you.